I really, really enjoyed Girls Just Want to Have Sons because I really believed in the message that Lisa was driving. However, I will say it's full of gender stereotypes, and sometimes it feels like it's saying, look at these ridiculous gender stereotypes, this is not what it's actually like. But every now and then, I felt like it was really leaning into the gender stereotypes and saying these are true. So it's a little bit awkward at times, but generally, I feel like it's saying these gender stereotypes are ridiculous. This is the 19th episode of the 17th season of The Simpsons, directed by Nancy Kruse and David Silverman. And there's a new principal at Springfield, and presumably this is something that will just be completely forgotten about, and Skinner will be back in place from the next episode. But in this episode, there is a new principal, and she's decided to split the school into a girls' school and a boys' school. Now, that in itself is not that outrageous. There are many schools that are just for boys and just for girls. However, Lisa initially enjoys it because the girls' school is beautifully decorated. There's a painting of Frida Kahlo. I will say the design of the girls' school is gorgeous. Absolutely loved it. Beautifully animated. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. However, when she gets to her class, she realises she's getting a very lukewarm maths lesson. And she's being taught basically to think of maths with her feelings rather than to actually problem solve. And Lisa being Lisa, this isn't acceptable. And of course it isn't. And there we have a very strong message that girls can be good at maths and girls shouldn't get a watered down education. I feel like anytime a girl thinks of a STEM subject, at the moment it's still a bit of a celebration. At least in the UK, we are bridging that gap. Girls and boys are starting to take a more equal interest in STEM, but certainly at this point, that wasn't the case, and Lisa wants to do proper maths. So, with Marge's encouragement, and it surprised me it was Marge's encouragement, but she had a reason for it. She encourages Lisa to dress up as a boy and go into the boys' school as a new student and study the maths lessons that she actually wants. And she does this, and for most of the episode, Lisa is actually Jake Boyman. And they give him a nickname which initially seemed quite cruel rather, but actually it became a term of endearment, and this term of endearment was used to make him feel included. And Lisa as Jake had this fresh perspective on what it means to be a boy and to fit in as a boy and how to act. But by doing that, Lisa's letting go of some of her core beliefs. And that's partly where I was a bit uneasy with the gender stereotypes, because Lisa was saying in order to get the maths lessons, she has to let go of her morals, basically, to become a boy. And it's kind of like the episode was saying boys are immoral. And yes, some are, absolutely, but it didn't really do anything to counteract that stereotype by saying, no, not every boy is like this. It just didn't do that. So, in a way, it was kind of saying, gender stereotypes for girls are ridiculous, but let's lean heavily on gender stereotypes for boys. And that didn't come across very well at all. So that was a bit awkward. But obviously the main message is that people should have an equal education regardless of their sex or gender. And the way it was done, the way it was told, Lisa as Jake, I loved. I thought it was a brilliant character. I enjoyed watching Jake flourish and seeing Lisa interact with the boys and become one of them and feeling like she fits in, because Lisa never fits in. It's just a shame that she has to pretend to be somebody else in order to achieve. And I think it's a good social commentary. And again, I feel like certainly now, this episode was 20 years ago, maybe just under 20 years ago. Things nowadays are definitely getting a little bit closer to being a bit more fair and not having these stereotypes. But I think it still exists. I think education is still slightly weighted in favour of boys. But this definitely says that shouldn't be the case. I enjoyed the episode. I think it relied heavily on Jake as a character being likeable or toilet. There were definitely some really good moments in this, but at the same time there were some moments where I just felt like they were being unfair towards boys, and Obviously, I can't get offended by that because I'm a girl and it's definitely supporting girls being equal to boys, but at the same time, it's saying that boys are brutish and bullies and kind of disgusting, and that's just, it's not great. The whole thing with Bart and the French fries did make my stomach churn. Also, why did he refer to comic book guy as that man? Or that guy, I can't remember what he said, like that man's bag. He knows who comic book guy is. So that was a bit ridiculous, but it played out well. But yeah, it's not perfect, but I still enjoyed it. I definitely think that Girls Just Want to Have Sums had an important message. It didn't deliver it perfectly, but it was still enjoyable, and I think ultimately it does get the message across.